This is take 788,594 of this video. Atheism plus is redundant. Filling in people. Atheism plus is a bunch of new atheists lumping in a bunch of other stuff they for the most part agree upon, in with their atheism. And let me explain why it's redundant. I really already associated most of these things with atheism. Anyway, my mind, I already thought of these things and atheism as a single entity. I already assumed any atheist I encountered agreed with these things unless I knew otherwise to be the case, with one exception which I'll get to. And Black Hag, the girl who came up with Atheism Plus, in her second post on the topic, let's look at the 5 things that she defines as Atheism Plus. I'm not going to quote them in the same order, and you'll see why. We are atheists, plus we care about social justice. I already associated atheists with caring about what they consider to be social justice. I already associated atheists with being pro-choice. I already assumed in any discussion with an atheist that they were pro-choice unless they corrected me, because in my experience, it almost always turned out to be true. In addition, I already associated atheism with liberalism. I already thought of all atheists as being liberals, unless I specifically knew that specific one wasn't. That was already the conception in my mind of what I can assume about an atheist, or what is probably true of an atheist. It was that way before I ever heard of the idea of Atheism Plus, before, the first post on it, August 18th. Yeah, before August 18th. Plus, we're against racism. Or, I'm sorry, we protest racism. I already associated atheism with general egalitarianism, not just with the issue of race, but with the issue of everything, with the exception of anti-theists, certain anti-theists not considering theists to be equal. I don't associate Calpern Piso with equality. But, plus, we fight homophobia and transphobia. I already associated atheism with being pro-gay rights. I don't know about a person in the new atheism movement that isn't pro-gay rights. There might be people who don't believe in God that aren't, but my general conception of what an atheist is already includes this. Thus, it's not necessary to create a new label with which I will associate all of these things together, with which atheism will call to mind also all of these other things. Because atheism, just atheism, already calls to mind these things. Plus, we support women's rights. Okay, this is actually... It depends on how you define that. I mean, on one hand, I associate atheism with that general, overall egalitarianism that would entail this. That said, I don't necessarily associate all atheists with also being feminists. So it depends on what the person means, and given that I'm reasonably sure that this person is a feminist, you know, that may be a defeater to some extent for my point. That said, I have to ask the main point of disagreement, the thing about atheists harassing each other at conferences, the same question I used to ask groups of Christians split with whose denominational lines seemed trivial to me. Is it worth dividing a church, or in your case, a movement, over? Plus, we support we use critical thinking and skepticism. Okay, granted, I associated atheism with not doing that, but I associated atheism with having the sort of superiority complex that we're the critical thinkers, we're the skeptics, you're a fucktard because you disagree with me. I associated atheism with that, and it is why Oh my goodness, how much I associated atheism with thinking that you are the only critical thinkers in the world. The degree to which I already thought that about you is... Oh... Actually, it's not quite as large as it is for some of those other things, but it's a complaint I have about the new atheists. Definitionally, it seems to me, to the new atheists, they have a superiority complex. And I can't think of a single person I would call a new atheist who doesn't have that superiority complex, because... I guess it's because my definition of a new atheism is that they have the sort of disrespectful attitude towards religion, theism, and theists that, is likely to be accompanied by the superiority complex. I need to do an entire video about the new atheist superiority complex, don't I? I will. I will make an entire rant. It will be as disjointed and loud and parent waking up in the other room as I can make it, without actually waking my parents up in the other room. I also need to do a poetry reading with the Hound of Heaven, because it's sitting right over there. But anyways, in conclusion, with the exception of, minor issues that don't seem to me worth spawning off a new schism, of a movement for, I generally already associated atheism with all of the things that the Atheism Plus has, and Neoplum99, if you don't want atheism to be associated with all of these things except maybe feminism, you needed to stop calling yourself an atheist a number of years ago. Or at least a number of months ago. Atheism has been pro-gay rights for a while now. It's not new. Atheism has been anti-racist for a while now. It's not new. Atheism has been leftist for a while now. It's not new. Or at least in my mind, in the mind of an outsider, when I think of atheism, I assume the person is most of these things until they correct me, because in my experience, most are. Thus, there's really no point in adding a label. It'd be more productive for people who aren't all of these things to drop the title atheist unless they are specifically asked about the issue of belief in God, but to not use it as part of their self-identity. Atheism, I wish was not anybody's self-identity, but good luck convincing me that people like Bionic Dance and Calperm Pizzo, that their self-identity isn't, I'm an atheist. Just like the primary feature of my self-identity is, I am a Catholic. Likewise, I think that the psychology is the same. It's just that the beliefs are different with atheists. And Atheism Plus does nothing but further my conviction that atheists are not a bunch of people all not believing this thing. They're a bunch of people that believe this other thing. I know better in the sense that I know there are atheists who aren't new atheists, but my conception of the new atheism, of the scientific naturalist community on YouTube, of those atheists, the new atheists, as being firstly, monolithic, for the most part, with the exception of the Thunderfoot-Coughlin schism, and perhaps more recently, the feminist-Dawkins schism, of being largely monolithic, with the exception of that, and being a belief system, being something, a worldview that people subscribe to, that is strengthened by Atheism Plus. I am more convinced of that is their psychology about it. That they think their atheism is not different from them. The way that their atheism is for them is quite the same as how my religion is for me. It's a worldview with which they give themselves an identity. It's a conception of reality under which they all gather, just like we Catholics all gather under the conception that Catholicism is true. They all gather under this conception of reality, and they derive their self-identity, their concept of who and what they are, who is the us, and who are the thems, from this is the common trait that all us's share. Just like in my mind, fellow Catholics are fully and totally us. Non-Catholic Christians are, to varying degrees, also us. Non-Christians are them. That's my psychological profile. That's how I think of it. I'm not going to deny that because it's true. This reinforces my conception that atheists are the same way. That in the mind of an atheist, we'll call him WW1. That's not a reference to a specific. That's Wolfwing 1's initials, but I don't have him specifically in mind that this is in any way especially true of. But in their mind, atheism is us, and that almost rhymes with atheism plus. Do you know what? No, atheism plus, atheism us, the us that we as the new atheism are a part of. Atheism us. It shouldn't be atheism plus. Cut out the PL, because atheism us is much better. Versus theists, them, the enemy. The people who are trying to bring back ancient superstitions of homophobia, racism, evil, every single thing I despise that will always exist even after we get rid of religion, and that I somehow simultaneously accept that while saying that the main or only reason for it is religion, because I'm inconsistent, intellectually dishonest, and fucking retarded, and you can tell that because I'm a new atheist, and a new atheist is probably fucking retarded. I'm not sure how this sentence started, so I'm not sure the proper grammar with which to end it, but I am rambling now. I hope this is enjoyable. I will not put it on the Thunderbolt channel. Of course, you know that because you know what channel you're watching it on. But I might give a more scripted video on Atheism Plus. Just remember, Atheism Us. I'm going to do that on the Thunderbolt channel, too. I'm going to make a scripted version of this, focusing on that point on the Thunderbolt channel. And I'm going to upload this rambly, disjointed rant for people who like to see me flail my arms about like a person with special needs. You like it? You like the flailing and the moving about in my office chair? Maybe I should keep doing this until we can get it to be the thumbnail. But anyways. I pone not out of malevolence, but out of the hope, however dim, that you will gaze at the tattered remains of your utterly eviscerated arguments, have the courage to admit that you are wrong. Actually, that's false. That's a lie. I do it for fun, so I'm sorry for lying to all of you every time I've done that outro. I do it because I enjoy it. Sometimes, my motivations are split. Sometimes I do it because, out of the hope, however, damn, blah, blah, blah. Sometimes I do it for fun.